Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The fever. I said the fever.
On inbounds, it's a hand.
Oh, thank God. The fever win 76-75 in a nail biter. First quarter was rough. Kelsey Plum used her veteran moves, her presence, her smarts to get in there and some of our runs. There was a lot of defensive lapses, but Aerial Powers, thanks to her, she had a good scoring and a huge effort in the beginning of the game. She just has a vibe to her. The way she's jumping out of the gym, the energy that she brings to the floor when she's in, the way she has the ability to touch a ref and laugh with them and not get a technical, which was, I mean, there was a ridiculous technical in this game to Lexi Hall on the bench, which I hadn't seen in a while, but there's that. But good effort needed. And the defense adjusted well in the second quarter. Second quarter, we limited a lot of stuff. A lot of our issues were typical things that we've had in the past, like losing our assignments, overcommitting, leaving wide open threes. We got beat on that. And we also got beat in a lot of big to big kind of pick and rolls that were happening between Azria Stevens and Derica Hamby. So that was happening a lot in this game that we were getting burned on. But luckily we adjusted. The defense was picking up on turnovers. 16 points off 11 turnovers in the first half is huge. Ended up forcing 22 turnovers overall. Big stands from the team. Second chance points and rebounding was also huge for us. I feel like ever since we went through that Lynx lull, we have now reinvented ourselves as the rebounding team, the second chance points team, because we are popping off. And thanks to that, we had 25 more shots than the Sparks this game. 25 more looks at the basket, which should mean you win. However, despite all of this, we were shooting so poorly in this game that even with all these things going for us, we were down 3 like late in the game with like 22 more shots on basket. Like that is crazy work. Luckily, we got a few more attempts down the line thanks to some huge offensive rebounding efforts. The fever third quarter collapse kind of came back to bite us in this game. Not playing efficiently, lots of empty 3 possessions. It felt like we were down by 10 and we were trying to shoot threes to shoot ourselves back in when, you know, we were up in this game going down the stretch and we weren't going inside to Aaliyah Boston, which was very frustrating considering she was one of the biggest factors in this game and previous games when we are winning. That's part of the formula. I don't know why we're ever losing sight of that, even if they are packing the paint. You could tell in the fourth quarter, eventually they said screw it and gave it to her and she started going to work, which they really need to do because she was beating him up inside. She was getting him to the bench. Like she was doing work in this game. But Kelsey Mitchell was cold tonight along with our shooting woes. 12 points off 5 for 14, only 1 for 6 for 3. I mean, that is a tough night. That's a night where you would think that we would lose in a lot of cases because the narrative has been Kelsey Mitchell has to put up 40 or she has to have some ridiculous performance for us to win. And fortunately, because our defense is coming back around and because we are going back to Boston and because we have players stepping up on the team, we are able to persevere through tough games like this. Another player that was part of our shooting woes tonight that at some points, like this is a joke, but it felt like she was throwing the game at some points because Tosh, like I love Tosh, but she was 1 for 8 tonight. The one basket she did make was like the sickest like spin cycle, like rewind the clock, you look like amazing move, like top play of the game move that she puts on. And then she's missing like all the easy bunnies and, you know, she's getting offensive rebounds, but she's, you know, acting uncoordinated sometimes. She's dribbling off her feet, like all those things that just kind of like are just like, oh man, I just wish you just give us a solid game. But that's just Tosh sometimes. You know, sometimes the ball is just not bouncing your way and stuff is just not happening. And that's just how it goes because she did have some good effort plays in here. So she was playing hard. She was being disruptive. That I can give to her. In fact, through all this, we only had 2 players that really shot well tonight in volume. You know, Bree had some good defense and, you know, made her one shot, which was a very nice shot from her. You know, Lexi Hall was finding stuff, but she wasn't having a great shooting night. But the 2 players that shot the best, and arguably, I would say in the fourth quarter, it did really something that we have not seen through the season. It's just when we are down in really tight crunch situations, players that are coming through and making shots, not just to keep us ahead, but to get us back in the game. And the first kind of co MVP. I just have to do this because it is what it is. Both these players balled out. Odyssey Sims has to get the first nominee right here because 21 points, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 steal. But most importantly, her floater was automatic tonight. Every time she drove and she put up that shot, I knew it was going in, especially down the stretch when it really mattered. And she had a chip on her shoulder about getting dropped, and it came to fruition in this game. She did not want to lose. She did not want the Fever to lose. She didn't want to lose in front of this crowd, the crowd that forsook her and sent her out the door. And now, thanks to us, Sparks have given us 2 great point guards. I mean, thanks for that, I guess. But I don't have to remind Fever fans how much of a hard time we've had in clutch situations trying to come back and shoot when we're down 1, we're down 2, heaven forbid down 3 or more. We have not come through in those situations. We've tried Kelsey Mitchell, we've tried Caitlin Clark when we've drawn up a play, we've tried lots of stuff, and it just like fumbles, things aren't happening. But Odyssey Sims came through on us when the game was on a knife's edge, and so she has to get props for this because of how clutch her shots were in this game. And then secondly, I've already talked about it, but Aaliyah Boston, I mean, 22 points, 11 rebounds, 7 of those offensive rebounds, 4 assists, 6 steals, 1 block. Girl was doing the Lord's work. She was doing the Lord's work tonight. She was on the board. She was on defense. She was scoring for us. She was making difficult shots, the shots that weren't bouncing in for Tosh. They were going in for Aaliyah Boston. She was banging down low. She was drawing fouls, giving fouls. She was just a warrior tonight and deserves, again, that co-MVP. And the only reason I wouldn't flat out give it to her because of her ridiculous stats, because Odyssey Sims clutch points down the stretch, but 6 steals and 1 block is an insane stat line. That's just insane on its own, regardless of all the great points in the double-double and all that other stuff that came with it. Absolute monster of a game from her. And the defense at the end was beautiful. Paul was great, huge on defense, keeping players in front of her, making the shots difficult when she could. Probably should have got a charge call or 2 tonight that she was not getting. The refs were all over the place. It's the WNBA. And I think that White also made good adjustments off of what we were getting burned by, some good timeouts to reset us, refocus us in this game, especially when we were hitting some lulls, some dead, multiple back-to-back possession issues in this game. Overall, huge win for the Fever, massive playoff implications for us getting this win and not getting swept, avoiding that sweep. And of all the things I want to talk about, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the clock operator in this game. I would never thought that I was going to have to talk about a clock operator in a WNBA game, but the WNBA always surprises us. There's always something to surprise you with the WNBA, and I wouldn't talk about them, but they're okay. There were multiple stoppages in this game, multiple, not just like 1, 2, whatever. It chopped up the game on its own because balls and batting from the very beginning of the game, this was happening. And I can give some lenience. Maybe there were some tech issues happening in the background. That's happened before with some of the clock operating gear not being set up correctly, which should be tested before the game, with the rest, all sorts of things. Don't know what's necessarily happening there. But beyond that, there were some egregious things. One of them being there was one instance where we had 1 shot on the shot clock. That's a tough shot. You got to get in, immediately shoot it, whatever. But it is possible. And the shot clock went off while the ball was in the air. Like we didn't even get to touch the ball. The Fever didn't even get to touch the ball, and the buzzer went while the ball was in the air before we even get to do anything. Stephanie White's beside herself. Everybody's wondering what's going on. The refs would just tell us to move along. But in that final end stretch where the Fever finally hold and think the game's over, 1.9 seconds left, things just don't make sense. So one of them is that Lexi Hall gets the ball in and she takes a couple dribbles, and the refs rewind it. They say that the clock doesn't run out. They say that there was a foul, so they go back to look at it. And when they go back to look at it, they say that was 0.8 seconds of time. Okay, 0.8 seconds of time is 2 dribbles, whatever Lexi Hall. If that's our standard metric that we're going off of, okay. Then we pass the ball to Kelsey Mitchell. She gets fouled like immediately. That somehow is 0.7 seconds. So math's not mathing. And honestly, like the collaborator kind of like what like kind of like it's hard to tell what's broadcast and what's in the stadium, but Caitlin Clark was like thumbsing up the clock operator for rolling some extra seconds in there or something, because we got down to 0.4 seconds. So then Kelsey Mitchell goes to the line and she shoots her free throw. She misses the first one, sucks. So you miss the second one because you want more clock and you want it to be impossible for them to shoot. Drake Hamby, like, barely even is about to touch the ball, and the ref immediately is on it. He's like, a reset timeout, stop the clock. We're, zero point 0.1 seconds off the clock for Phantom touching the ball. But before it was 1 second before the ball even got into us, whatever. And then we get down, all for them to pass on Drake Hamby, and Leah Boss just to swat her down. But it's like these things, like, I shouldn't have anxiety in a close game. The Fever shouldn't have anxiety in a close game. No one should have anxiety in a close game. That just the shot clock operator is going to operate things weirdly, and then refs shouldn't be so intent on being like, you know what I really got to do? We really got to go to overtime. We really got to hit those betting lines, if you know what I'm saying. Winky blinky, like it's just weird behavior and like so ridiculous way for this game to end that like I had to make fun of it multiple times, but like I don't want to ever have to talk about a clock operator again. I don't know if they're drunk. I don't know what's going on, but like that was just a special game to watch. And another thing the WNBA needs to clean up, which they're probably not going to do. Like, I don't know. It's so weird, so weird. Regardless, though, a win is a win is a win. Huge win for the Indiana Fever. Happy for the squad. No matter if it was ugly at times tonight, they played with a lot of effort, a lot of heart. It shows in a lot of the stats that came out of this game. And got to be proud of this one. So, with that said, who is your MVP? Let me know down in the comments. Also, do you think we can beat the Valkyries in Valhalla? We took down the Sparks. We got revenge there. Can we do it to the Valks at home in that tough environment? I think they can do it. They're showing the chops to do this. They're showing a different level of intensity and some connection throughout this game. I think they have a shot. What do you think? And as always, remember, you're going to be amazing today because you are amazing. And I'll catch you next episode.